All right, so we got joining us now in the booth. You want to throw those headphones on there. We got Michael Lennard from Rockwell Automation. So good morning. Well, good morning, Michael. Welcome to the live podcast here in the new warehouse booth. How you doing?
Good morning, Kevin. Doing well. Excited to be here. Day 2 of ProMat. It's
Day
exciting
two.
times.
Yeah, we're here, baby.
That's right.
All right, so Rockwell Automation, give us a little overview. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so we've been a controls company, automation company for over 100 years, providing a lot of core components and technology into this industry, into this space. But I think what we're seeing is that as companies are investing in more automation within their warehouse,
Right.
Their whole operation and their process has to start to evolve as well, and how they think about it and how they focus on it. It's really becoming much more of an industrial application, industrial
Right.
environment,
Mhm.
and so the tools, the capabilities, and the needs start to evolve. And so, we've been making that shift ourselves and are really focused on how do we enable companies to leverage data and information to break down those data silos, work across the, really end-to-end vision of your enterprise, of your operations, and everything from simulation and emulation to really understand where and how to invest and what the impact of automation is going to be, maybe especially for someone that's on that early side and early phase, all the way to cybersecurity strategy and consulting. How do you protect? How do you wrap around that whole integrated architecture between the operations technology, the automation that's going on the floor, and that higher level IT solutions? And so, as Rockwell, we have hardware, software, services that really are focused on bringing those worlds together and enabling companies to make this, be able to drive productivity at scale across their entire enterprise.
Okay, awesome. And obviously, dealing with all those things, you're seeing all different parts of the industry and the warehousing industry. So, I mean, coming into ProMat here, I mean, what do you think are some of the big trends and things that people are attending and going to be looking at?
Sure, and that's a good question. I think if you look at kind of the whole market, there are some of the big players that they have highly automated environments. They might even be pulling back on trying to build new facilities. And instead they're focusing on how do we drive productivity within our facilities. And so they're looking for solutions that can do, everyone's in a labor crunch. Everyone is trying to improve their margins or meet that shifting customer demand.
Right.
And so they're looking for things that can drive new solutions. So a lot of that's robotics or capabilities that enable them to add flexibility into their network. But there's also other companies that are, right at the heart of that strategic investment. They recognize that in order to compete with some of those big players, they need to be changing how they go to business. The infrastructure that has existed, that was really built around shifting, moving pallets, using forklifts to move pallets into stores. That's not going to work with all of the different ways that consumers are looking to buy. And then you have companies that are on even the early side, which is, hey, I know I need to automate. I know I want to start investing. I don't even know where to get started. And I think they're looking for just what are systems out there. So, looking for ideas. How do we scale it? And then how do we really drive that next level of innovation?
Interesting. Yeah. And I think it's a great point you touched on, because things are not the way they used to be, right? In terms of the way we look at fulfillment, like you said, there's a different, especially when we look at omni-channel, and now companies are utilizing their stores as warehouses too, as a sense,
exactly.
Right? So there's all different kinds of things going on. And when you say like looking for ideas, I mean, what do you think? I mean, it's been a day, and you're here yesterday.
Yeah, I was here yesterday.
All right. Before I ask you, maybe you're traveling, but yeah. So I mean, just kind of from day one, I mean, what do you think people are, or what sense are you getting from attendees that maybe are talking to you, and what's kind of the top of mind, like some of those ideas that are really kind of catching their attention and things they're really looking at?
Yeah. I mean, I think I touched on some of them, but I think, companies really are looking for help in navigating that environment. And so again, what are the places that is going to be most impactful? There's a lot of noise out here around the different solutions and different ideas, and some of them are ready for, they're ready for operation. Some of them are a little bit more forward looking. And it's tough sometimes for companies to figure out
Yeah.
what's going to be the best investment,
Mm.
and how do you separate that real signal from all that noise?
Interesting.
And so I think that's one area we're seeing is really on how do you we work with companies to help them with that navigation, that transition, really the strategy side of it, even before you get down into the bits and the bytes of the automation.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think that's a really great point, because you said there, like, there's some things that are very like forward looking here, which I definitely would agree. Like, I mean, you see them and you're like, wow, this is amazing, but then you think about, realistically, like, could I put this in my operation today?
Right.
Probably not, right? So I mean, as an attendee coming in, I mean, what advice would you give to I guess not get the shiny object syndrome, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, hey, go and check out all of the cool demos and the cool exhibits. And there's a lot of them that are really neat. But some of the ones that have the most crowds around them taking videos, those aren't always the ones that are going to be, your best investment. And so take some time to really look and think about what are your outcomes and use cases, and what's really going to be, how do you drive your operation,
right?
And not getting necessarily of, hey, I need the latest, the greatest, or the shiniest object, but really thinking through of where are we today, what's going to be that path forward, and how do you find the right partners that can work with you along that whole journey.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I did see you mentioning taking a lot of video. I saw yesterday in the South building. I forget, I can't remember what booth it was, but it was like a robotic arm, and it was like pouring a beer.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's always going to be.
And I think that's a great investment. I'll say, like, we should go for that.
Yes, I mean, take back what I said. Invest in the robotic beer pouring arm, 100%.
But I mean, it's really interesting to see what's going on here. And one thing I think that's becoming more prevalent, I'm curious your thoughts on this. We're talking about automation and borderline future looking, I think it is the like trailer unloading, truck unloading automation. So I'm curious your thoughts on that.
I think it's a tough space. I mean, I think there's a lot of some innovative ideas out there, and we're seeing a number of them. To me, that's a technology and a solution that is still on the early side of its development. And so there's a lot of applications out there where, hey, you're doing unloading, but it's a very nice, neat box. And I've seen a lot of trucks, and a lot of them aren't nice and neat. And especially if you look at like the parcel world, that's a completely different animal. And they'll even say that, they'll say, no, we don't do parcel. We're focused on boxes right now. And so if you can constrain it, if you can make it a narrow area, I think you can start to have solutions. I mean, people have been doing automated truck unloading for many years, as long as it fits some specific parts of that operation.
Right.
So again, I think understanding what's going to fit, going back to those use cases, understanding what the value is. Everyone's interested in it because there's a lot of labor there. There's a lot of cost there. I think there's probably some, if you're just starting that journey, there's some better places to start, because there's some tried and true solutions, like start with a palletizer or a depalletizer.
Right.
Then you can get eventually to how it's going to come in, and from a truck unloading perspective.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. And I love too that it's because I think back to when I started to come to these shows, it was ProMat 2019. And I mean, the robotics, I think, where it was like very new, even the idea of just having a robotic to help like picking, right? Or like the cobots and stuff like that. And I think that process is something that's, someone that's had experience managing people who have unloading containers all day long. It's a crazy job. But, I mean, it needs to be automated in some way, I think, for just that human comfort factor. But I think what's very interesting about it is like there's different solutions, and they're all kind of like approaching it in a different way, which I think is really interesting.
And I think that reflects all the variety in this space, right? We don't just have one object we're moving. It could be literally everything. And so some solutions are going to be better fit than others. Some of those use cases might have a really good solution today. Some are still unsolved. And I think it's part of the evolution. It's part of the space. I think we're going to see more focus and more, investment in it. And people are going to continue to come up with new ideas on ways to do it. So I think the future is bright for it. I'm a little bit of a pessimist on the current state of the technology, but that's also just my personal thought.
That's fair. Yeah. So I guess for the rest of the week, for people that maybe are just coming in today or are going to be coming in Wednesday or Thursday, what are you looking forward to, and what would you definitely recommend to check out?
Yeah, I mean, I think once you even get past that first wave of walking through the show floor, there are a number of great seminars that are also going on. MHI puts on a number of good ones. As a selfish plug, I'm going to be doing a condition monitoring one for our solutions group on tomorrow.
Cool.
But I think there's some interesting content there. And I think that just having conversations, understanding the systems. I mean, there's a lot that's here. It's a big show. You can spend days just focusing on that itself. So certainly a lot to continue to see and just have a lot of conversation and dialogue.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely a big show. My feet were feeling it yesterday.
Absolutely.
Doing some of the walking. But yeah, very interesting talking to you and great insights here. And if people want to connect with you or learn more about Rockwell Automation, how can they do that?
Yeah, if you're at ProMat, you can come to our booth. We're in South 1021.
Okay.
Right across from Honeywell and Telegrade.
Yeah.
And otherwise, you're free to come find me or reach out to me on LinkedIn. Be happy to connect.
All right, cool. And if they come to your booth, what can they expect to see there?
We have really talking about that full range. So we have an area around Emulate 3D. It's a company we acquired about 3 or 4 years ago. They've been a long time exhibitor at ProMat and Modex. So we're talking about simulation, emulation. We're talking about different digital solutions and cybersecurity, safety, some of the technology around flexible automation and how that can be applied.
Yeah.
And then we also we have a Phononic tote. So actually we have some secret ice cream in there.
Ooh, I love Phononic. I love what they're doing.
And it's fascinating technology.
It's incredible. Yeah.
We worked with them to help build out their IoT platform on how it can be.
Okay.
So the Phononic tote, so they can track it end to end across their environment. Our digital solutions group helped build that up and be able to deliver that for them. And so we have that in our booth as well. You can come get some ice cream.
Ice cream. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Definitely. I love ice cream, so I'll be by.
Perfect.
All right, Michael, thanks so much for joining me this morning on the New Warehouse Podcast live here. And I appreciate it. And we'll see you at the booth.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. It was a fun time.
Right. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys. So we are waiting on our next guest here to come.